Welcome to Podcast 83, a regular look at the news, stories, and trends related to Michigan's 83 counties from the Michigan Association of Counties.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Podcast 83, the podcast put on by the Michigan Association of Counties. Today, we are joined by our legislative staff, Deena Bosworth, and a new face, Legan Rose, who is joining the MAX staff. So with that, I will turn it over to Legan and let her do a brief introduction. She's going to be our legislative assistant. Legan, take it away.
Yeah, thank you very much. I really appreciate being with you guys here today, and I'm glad to be a part of the team. I came from the Michigan House of Representatives. I worked as a committee clerk there, so I'm really interested to see this side of the whole legislative process, and I'm really excited to be a part of the team.
Yeah, thanks, Legan. So it's Legan's first day, big week for her. She's a Spartan, so we appreciate that, of course. Always got to throw that in there when I can. So let's change gears a little bit, Deena. We've had a week, is that like the first week of the legislature working, I think. We're back kind of having consistent meetings, and we've had some announcements that will impact us over the next couple of years, some committee assignments. Let's start there first. Deena, what have we heard about committee assignments at this point, or not heard in some cases?
I think we've heard less than we would like to hear, actually. The House legislative session every 2 years, they have to redo all of their committee assignments. They choose who's going to be the chair of those committees and who's going to be serving on them. The Senate usually holds it over until they have a new election and a new Senate comes in. So we're waiting on Speaker Matt Hall to make announcements for all of the committees. And then who's going to sit on them. So not only who's going to chair them, but who's going to sit on those committees. He's had a couple press conferences, made some announcements, which we're pretty happy about. You've got Representative Bollin out of Livingston County going to chair the House Appropriations Committee. The minority vice chair on that is going to be Representative Farhat from Wayne County, which we've worked with quite a bit in the past as well. Luckily for us, we have Sarah Lightner, former county commissioner, Jackson County, who is going to chair the House Judiciary Committee. Very happy to hear that. Sarah's just been a great friend of the counties for many, many years, involved in all kinds of judicial issues, and we look forward to the work that she's going to do. We've got Representative Jade Boyer from St. Clair County going to chair the House Oversight Committee. And this committee is going to be enormous from what we understand. Not only are they going to take over, really looking into what state departments are doing and how they're going to do it, but it's got all kinds of subcommittees and they've got subpoena power. So we anticipate that to be an extremely active committee this year. Am I forgetting one?
No, I don't think so. Well, you thought you were forgetting one earlier, but I don't think.
I keep thinking I'm forgetting one, but I mean, we don't have a lot of information.
Well, in most sessions, there's a lot of committees have been announced at this point. So far, they've just been trickling in a little bit, kind of one a week, I feel like we're getting, and that seems to be the cadence. So maybe we'll get another one this week, even by the time this airs. So a couple quick comments.
I think that next week we will hear more about committee assignments. What we won't hear is who's chairing House local government, because there isn't going to be one,
Right.
which we're still grappling with and, not necessarily happy about it, but we'll see how it plays out. I do expect, though, more committee assignments to come next week, especially the full appropriations committee. I think that absolutely has to happen.
Well, if the governor's budget is going to be presented next week, you kind of need a committee to evaluate that, right?
She's got to be able to present it to somebody.
Right.
I don't think that, the House is going to be okay if she just presents it to Representative Bollin and Representative Farhat, and then maybe the Senate Full Appropriations Committee. So I anticipate those to be done before her budget presentation late next week.
Yeah. Well, a couple notes on that. Sarah Lightner, obviously a former county commissioner, chair of our internal Judiciary Committee for many years, worked very hard on the Trial Court Funding Commission recommendations, which we've been talking about for, I think, 8 years now, if not longer, which is going to be another issue we're really focused on the next year, because, again, there's a sunset date coming up on those fines and fees that can be charged. So we anticipate some work being done on that this year and prior to that sunset date. So that's a positive. And Representative Bollin is a former local government official as well, so she understands local government, which is always good to have in those positions. So I think those are a couple positives there as far as those appointments, and we'll see what happens with the rest of them. So last week we also had a special select committee that was formed specifically for the tipped wage and paid leave time issue that we've talked about before. That's anticipating going into effect in about a month at the end of February. The House has a version, the Senate has a version. Where are we at in the process on that, Deena?
Yeah, so the House, the select subcommittee to take up the minimum wage and the Earned Sick Time Act met and really had great bipartisan support in voting those bills out of committee. The majority of the testimony you heard in committee was from business organizations really trying to understand how this Earned Sick Time Act would be implemented, and very supportive of the changes that were proposed. You also heard a significant amount of testimony from the restaurant industry, primarily servers, who really want restaurants to retain that tip credit so that they can continue to earn more than minimum wage, because most of them do when they're waiting on tables. They're afraid that if the minimum wage is the same for restaurant workers as it is for everyone else, then they're really going to take a pay cut because people are going to stop tipping. So you had significant bipartisan support getting that bill out of committee. Last week, we saw the full House take it up. And it was a bipartisan vote, but we lost some of the Democrat votes for those two pieces of legislation. It did make it out of the House, and now it is over in the Senate. What the Senate plans to do with it, we're not quite sure. The Senate has their own version amending the Earned Sick Time Act and the minimum wage, which is not necessarily as business friendly. It's a little more labor friendly than the House version. I think they're going to meet somewhere in the middle. Now, are they going to get this done prior to the February 21st deadline when everything goes into effect or not? That remains to be seen. I think it's a lot of negotiation to happen in the next 3 weeks in order to get it to the governor for her to sign it. So we're keeping our fingers crossed, but MAC as an organization supported both the changes to the Minimum Wage Act and the Earned Sick Time Act.
Yeah, and you know, when you talk about negotiations very early in the session to see how things play out, when you have a Republican-controlled House, Democratic-controlled Senate, and a Democratic governor, you know, this could set the tone on how the rest of this session goes, especially when you start looking at some larger ticket items with, you know, we know the governor wants her SOAR program to continue. Everyone wants the roads to be fixed and some sort of long-term funding package there. Doesn't seem like a lot of conversations between anyone are happening right now. But you know, maybe they're happening behind closed doors and no one knows that. So it's maybe an indicator of what we'll see over the next year, but of course you never know how things will work around here. So Deena, I don't think I had anything else on my list. Did I miss anything? Oh, you wanted to talk about internal committees. Sorry.
I want to talk about internal committees. Yeah, thank you, Steve. So at the beginning of the year, we go through and ask former county commissioners or county commissioners who formerly served on our internal committees if they wanted to continue. We also open up the application period for those who have not participated. So I've heard from the vast majority of our returning commissioners that they do want to continue to serve on our policy committees. And I've received a whole host of committee applications for new people who are interested, which is exciting. That means it's great representation from across the state. And I think we're going to get a lot out of, you know, get real good public policy positions out of it. The deadline for those new committee applications is the 31st, which is only what? Today's the 27th. I have 3 more days. Typically, committees start to meet in the month of February. And that is still our goal. We just need a little time. And now that I have Legan's great help, I'm hoping to get all of those committee members finalized and get those committees started in February still. The first one is Finance and General Government, which is actually scheduled to meet this Friday. Gonna try to see if we can make that happen, and hopefully we can get lots of member participation for that. The rest of them, we have a little more time to get that sorted out. If anyone's interested, you can get on our webpage, look for the committee applications. Right on the applications says when the committees meet. So whether it's the first Friday of the month, the second Friday of the month, the last Friday of the month, or the last Monday of the month, they're on there. If you have interest and want to participate, please fill out those forms and get them to me as soon as possible so we can get organized.
Yeah, www.micounties.org is where you can find that information. And as far as the cadence of our meetings, we haven't changed any of that since the last year. So if you were on a committee before, it's going to be the same time, date, days of the month. You know, we anticipate meeting until May, June-ish time of year, then recessing for the summer and then coming back usually about September, August, September timeframe until the holidays again. So if you were on a committee and wanted to stay on a committee, you know, you can kind of plan on that cadence for the rest of this year. Other than that, I think that's all I had. Deena, anything you wanted to add that I missed?
I don't think so. I don't think so. It's going to be a busy year. So
Legan, any parting words? We spared you this time so you could kind of watch and learn from the expertise of Deena on these podcasts. Any parting words you may have before we go?
Nothing specific, just ready to start getting to work with everybody.
There we go. All right. Well, thanks everyone for joining us, and we will talk to you next week.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of Podcast 83.